Alright, so here's a classic that for some reason I haven't gotten to yet. Poltergeist from 1982, directed by Tobe Hooper, which there's been so much debate over how much he directed of this or whether Spielberg directed a lot of this. I'm not going to get into all of it. This is definitely Tobe Hooper's film. I just think Spielberg is such a huge presence as a producer, and he wrote the story that it bleeds through a lot. This feels like a Spielberg production because it is, but it's definitely Tobe Hooper's movie. And this is one of those films that is considered cursed, right? We have Dominique Dunn, the sister of Griffin Dunn, who was strangled by her boyfriend or something, like several years after this, and died. That's awful. Then Heather O'Rourke, sadly, was sick for a lot of her life throughout her childhood, and then she tragically died at 12 years old, I think. So there's definitely some type of curse put on this movie in some way. Then we have Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams as the parents. The Freelings, that's the family here. We have Stephen and Diane are the parents. Then we have Dana, Robbie, and of course Carol Ann. Then we have Zelda Rubinstein later on as the parapsychologist who talks in the most infuriating way.
Carol Ann has found the light, and now she must find her way back to us.
Oh, you want to punch this woman. But I've never been a huge fan of Poltergeist. I've never loved this movie. It's a good, like, young adult friendly horror film that has a few scenes that will scare the shit out of you if you're a kid watching this. But it's just too kid friendly for me to really love. If anything, I prefer the next two Poltergeist films, 2 and 3, 3 especially, in the high rise. That's my favorite of the series. But there's some great stuff in here, so let's talk Poltergeist from 1982. I like how we start with the Star Spangled Banner being played on the TV, and then it zooms out and you see the TV static, and then some iconic shots already with Carol Ann when they all come downstairs at the beginning and they see the TV flashing and Carol Ann's talking to whatever's talking to her in the TV. She's saying yes and I don't know. And then she puts her hands up on the TV screen. That's an iconic shot there. You have the shots of the kids riding their bikes around the neighborhood, which is just straight up Spielberg. Then you have the cute scene with Carol Ann when Tweety, her bird, dies. The mom was sneaking to flush it down the toilet. I'd have pretend it didn't happen. And this is why you don't flush your kids' goldfish or birds or anything like that down the toilet, because they will never believe you for the rest of your lives. I love the whole stupid remote war that they have with the neighbors. The remote control is changing the channel on both of the TVs, and they're going back and forth and changing it on each other. Stupid. It's fun, though. Then the parents, they're just casually smoking pot in the room. If I recall right, it's the scene right here. I think the door's open, too. So they're just casually blazing up in this room with their door open. Or maybe the door isn't open. It doesn't matter. But the clown, that holds up. That clown is still fucking terrifying. Why, of all nights, tonight is the night that he decides to throw the jacket on the clown and that he's scared of him? I don't understand that. I wouldn't have this clown in my room at all, ever. But apparently he's fine with it on most nights. And the tree outside his window, awesome looking tree too. The door is fucking open. See, I don't know why I doubt myself, because Robbie here just walks in. Then they notice him standing there in the open doorway. Then he comes in and they play with him on the bed. So they left their door open. Again, it doesn't matter, but I'm vindicated now that I was right. Then it's nighttime, the storm is going on outside, and this whole scene is shot very well. And the effects in this movie, I think they mostly hold up, for the most part. But when she's looking at the TV and it's going all staticky, the lighting throughout the whole room. All of that looks great. She gives the famous line, "They're here." And then you see the beam of light go into the wall. And then there's some type of earthquake because the dad says the next morning, he's on the phone, he says it's like a 6.5. So they had some type of disturbance here. And then they have the crew that I think is digging up the pool, right? And they hit on Dana, the like 15, 16-year-old sister, and she tells them to go fuck themselves like that. And the mom sees all of this and she just smiles after she tells the workers go fuck themselves. And then she just carries on with her day. She doesn't seem bothered at all that her daughter was just hit on by these old construction dudes. So I had to stop recording and watching, and multiple things led to other things, and now I'm back here like 5 hours later finishing this. Just thought you'd like to know. But they do a very good job of making you care about the family here. And just the little interactions, like when the dad checks in on Dana at night, says, "Good night, Dana," and she hides the phone that she's on with whoever, boyfriend, whatever. Then he peeks back in and says, "Get off the phone, Dana." And she says, "All right, Dad." Like, they capture those little moments very well. Then you have the famous scene with the chairs and how they restack themselves. Then I loved how they put Carol Ann, after they put the chair on that spot and it gets dragged across the floor, they put Carol Ann in the spot with a fucking football helmet on. And she goes sliding across the floor, and the dad has no idea what to make of it. He just like sits down and is like, oh my God. All of that is great. So the poltergeist activity, I'm assuming that's what this scene implies, is making them get bit by mosquitoes like crazy, because they go to the neighbors and they ask if there's any disturbances that they've been witnessing or having anything happen in their place. And they're getting bit like crazy by mosquitoes. So I'm guessing that's just another side effect of having a poltergeist. You get your blood sucked out of you by mosquitoes. That don't sound like a good deal. It's already a shit deal. And then you have this on top of it, and they didn't even lose Carol Ann yet. Carol Ann is sleeping with that fucking clown doll. Are you kidding me? But that scene earlier with the dad and Robbie with the lightning claps, teaching them how to count, it's used to great effect for a great scare here, where Carol Ann and Robbie are in their room and they're counting and the storm's getting closer. Then when he goes 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, the tree comes crashing through the window, grabs Robbie's ass, pulls him out the place. Carol Ann's freaking out. And they're all trying to find Robbie. They forget all about Carol Ann, and that's when she ends up getting sucked into the television. Well, I shouldn't say sucked into the television, because from every time I've seen this, and from what I remember, that closet in their room that the light is coming out of and all the stuff gets sucked into it and Carol Ann gets sucked into it, that's the heart of the house. As I always forget Zelda Rubinstein's character's name in this. We'll just go with Zelda Rubinstein. What she says later on, that every house has a heart or something like that. So it's that closet, right? So she got sucked into whatever dimension through that closet. Just like there's an exit point through the ceiling where they eventually, bring her out. So she's not sucked into the TV. You can just kind of hear frequencies from another world where she is through the TV, if that makes sense. That's how I take it. To speak a little more about Hooper's directing in this, that whole sequence when the tree crashes through the window and they're all chaotically running around looking for Carol Ann, and the father jumps into, I can't remember his name for some goddamn reason, Steven jumps into the pool and thinking Carol Ann fell in there, and she's not in there. Then Robbie is in the room and starts hearing Carol Ann's voice. All of that is very, very Hooper. That whole sequence, the way that it's shot very chaotically, and there's so much going on, and there's some disturbing things going on, that's very signature Hooper right there. Absolutely hysterical when they called the 3 paranormal researchers and the black guy's talking about how he got footage of a Matchbox toy moving 7 feet on the floor over the course of 7 hours, and it's spectacular footage. And then they open the door to the kids' room and everything's flying around and the looks on their faces. That's a brilliant scene too. What does bother me though is they're paranormal researchers. All these people talk about is how there's no proof, especially the skeptics. No proof, no video footage. They open the door. They're such in shock of what they're seeing. Everything flying around, and really cool effect. How the lamp plugs in to the lampshade, like the light bulb plugs in and it turns on. None of them take their cameras out, start recording for evidence, nothing. That is frustrating. And that's why this guy only has stories of Hot Wheel cars moving over 7 hours. That's his best evidence. Also, one complaint that I've always had with this film, even though it does explore it a little bit, and they show how, at first, Diane is very, not happy, but like giddy almost with what's happening with them before Carol Ann goes missing. She finds it fascinating. Steve is the more like reserved one. He doesn't really know what to think. They show Dana, the older sister, when Carol Ann is talking from the ether or wherever she is, that she's holding her head like she can't stand this. Like this is freaking her out way too much. So they do explore a bit how the family reacts to losing Carol Ann and not knowing where she is. But I wish they would have explored it more. Like, your daughter's missing, and you can hear her, but you can't see her, and you have no idea how to get her back. And I feel like they don't fully go there emotionally to fully explore how fucking devastating that must be to have the ability to hear your daughter's voice, but you can't find her. You don't know where she is. Feel like they could have delved more into that. Actually, I don't know if I should fully say that it doesn't fully explore that subject. More so, I guess, that because of how lighthearted this film feels and it being more of a family-friendly or kid-friendly horror film. That might be why it doesn't hit emotionally the way I wish it would. Because it didn't go as deep into it as it could have. Because it was trying to maintain the same tone that it has throughout this movie. So hopefully that clarifies what I was trying to say. Then we have two cool effect sequences. One is not nearly as extravagant as the latter, but first we have the stake on the counter that starts inching along. That looks really cool. But then that paranormal investigator guy goes into the bathroom and he has the hallucination when he starts picking his face apart and his face comes ripping all off, the skin's falling into the sink, and then back to normal. That's an excellent effect. And that's absolutely one of the few nightmare fuel scenes in this film, seeing it as a young adult or a kid. That'll absolutely freak you out. So Steve finds out from his boss that the property that they live on used to be a graveyard, a cemetery, and they moved all of the bodies, is what the boss makes it sound like, until they find out later that they just moved the headstones. They left all the bodies there, and that's probably what led to the poltergeist activity. And Zelda Rubinstein, Tangina, that's her name, she has arrived on the premises. So Tangina gives her Seinfeld high talker monologue. All these spirits in the house don't know they're dead, but there's one entity that's with Carol Ann that looks just like another kid to her, but to them, she calls it the Beast, and it has nefarious intentions. Then she gives her famous line of "let's go get your daughter back," and goes upstairs with them and tells Steven, the parent who is more threatening to Carol Ann, just because he dishes out punishments, has to yell at her to get a response from her. All of that's good, and let me just say this about Zelda Rubinstein. Yeah, she talks funny. Obviously. And I've just seen so many parodies of this movie and of her specifically throughout my life. It's hard for me to take it seriously nowadays. But she still is a good character. I like the whole idea of this eccentric medium that shows up, and she's the only one who's really dealt with anything that's actually like big and legitimate in the paranormal world compared to, NASCAR guy who's got the car for 7 hours. Like, he even says this is way beyond anything I've ever dealt with cold spots and stuff. So I like the idea of having this weird, eccentric lady come in, and she's the one that helps them get their daughter back. It's just, I can't help but laugh at her because of all the parodies over all my entire life, basically. Did I miss the scene with Robbie with the clown? When he looks under the bed and the clown appears and he's strangling him? Because if I did, for some reason, that's an excellent scene. But it's brought down because of Scary Movie. Like with a lot of movies that series spoofed. Anytime I see it, I see Ray immediately. And that's one of the other scenes in this film that's just pure nightmare fuel when you're younger watching this. Again, the lighting is one of the high points of this movie for me. It is excellent throughout all of this. But Diane ties the rope around her, and she goes into the closet, into the other dimension, and then she comes out through the ceiling of the living room with Carol Ann, and they have the ectoplasm goo all over them, and they seem to be fine. Zelda Rubinstein says, "This house is clean." And it's apparently not fucking clean at all, because more stuff happens. So she's not that great of a medium. Okay, I didn't miss the scene with the clown. I forgot it's after they got Carol Ann back, because now they're moving out. They have almost everything packed, and Steve isn't there, and we have Carol Ann and Robbie in their room, and I think Dana's at a boyfriend's house or a friend's house, something like that, and it's just Diane home with the kids. This is where we get the clown scene, and again, great, but Scary Movie. The scene with Diane also, they parody, it's Scary Movie 2, right, with all the Poltergeist parodies, where she's getting, pushed and dragged up the wall and on the ceiling, and in Scary Movie 2, she's getting fucked by the ghost. But still, effects-wise, it looks good. When they see the actual beast, I still think it holds up. I think it looks really good. I mean, it doesn't look the greatest, but for what effects they had back then and what they were able to do with a poltergeist and like the design of some beast entity, I think it looks really good. And just like all the other effects, I didn't really have any moment on this rewatch where I thought to myself, ugh, like that doesn't really look too good. None whatsoever. So the effects really do hold up. And then Diane stumbles into the pool, and we see probably the greatest scene in this movie for me, with the skeletons that all come up. And wasn't it, according to legend, that they used real skeletons, human skeletons, for the movie here? And that's why this movie, among other reasons, got known as a cursed film? Didn't they actually use real skeletons? Which isn't too uncommon. I mean, a lot of movies use actual human skeletons. But that was another part of the lore surrounding the curse of this film. The shot when Diane goes back inside and rushes for her kid's room, and you see the red light, like, coming out of the door. She looks down the hallway, and it's just that long shot, and it looks like it's getting further away, and then she starts running towards it, and it still looks like she's not getting there. That's one of my favorite shots of the film. And then she bursts through that door, and imagine seeing this shit. This thing coming out of the closet that's trying to suck your kids away, and they create a chain and they hold each other and they're able to pull each other outside of the room. You son of a bitch, you didn't move the bodies, you only moved the headstones. That's such an iconic line too. And great shots when they're running through the house trying to get out. Steve just got there with his boss, who can't believe what he's seeing, obviously. They've seen some shit already. And you get those great shots of the coffins shooting up from the ground and then opening and the skeletons inside. All of that looks great. They end up fleeing. Dana's right there, has no idea what's going on, looks at the house, screams, and they grab her, throw her in the car. Yeah, the way that the house crumbles and fades away, that might be the only thing in this movie that is a little iffy, doesn't look the greatest. But again, how else were they going to do it? It looks pretty damn good for 82. So the family all make it out safe. They check into a hotel, and then the first thing the father does is roll the television out of the hotel room and then shuts the door. Funny, even though they know the TV has nothing to do with it. They know it's because of the house being on top of dead bodies. That it was a burial ground. They didn't move the bodies. They built on top of it. So it's some type of curse related to that, which they expand upon in 2. It's been a while since I've seen 2 and 3, but like I said, 3 is my favorite out of all 3 of these movies. I don't really care for the remake. I didn't see the point in the remake, and I don't really remember anything from it, except for the scenes that it does verbatim the same as the original here. But that's Poltergeist from 1982, Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist / Steven Spielberg. I mean, it's close, man, both sides. Hope everyone's having a good morning, afternoon, or night. I will talk to you soon. Take care, guys. Is that his name? The son? With the creepy-ass clown? We have Steven. It's a classic, but motherfucker, I'ma kill you. But I've never loved... And she's saying yes, and I don't know, and all that type. Opening shots of the town here where they all reside. Then you have the cute why of old. She doesn't seem. The chairs that restack each other. So hopefully that clarifies whatever the hell I was trying to say with how this. Yeah, no, I didn't miss it. The look of the poltergeist creature. And it just. That like long. You son of a bitch, you moved the